We want to create a cycle of reoccurring experiences where you're having this sensation from God that says, and this is my beloved daughter, and this is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased. I had a challenging, emotionally challenging session earlier today, and this very intelligent woman that I spent time with, a 40-something-year-old woman, understands psychology decently well, but is experiencing a very big challenge with being psychologically stable or settled because she's got so many voices in her head of her mother, her father, her husband, her kids, her culture, her subculture, just constantly pulling at her that she can never hear the tuning fork that says you're in tune, you're fine, you're okay. You're on track. And then we add the one that's on the inside, the one that comes and starts tormenting us from within. I want to fine tune the experience of creating that connection, that personal connection where you are receiving revelation. And I want to refine some of the methodology for doing so that is a little bit contrary to popular belief and in actuality is a little bit different than the way we originally taught things, specifically in rituals designed to connect to God. I want to talk about what seems elementary: prayer, writing, and reading. One of the challenges of being raised in our culture is we are given the definition of these, and I want to half apologize. I'm very pleased with where we started when we started training people, but a higher way of thinking, a higher way of functioning given to us by President Nilsson tells us that we need to evolve from a people who are given checklists and instructions in detail to people who can really engage our brains into highly intentional thinking. Because what I've seen is lots of sabotage from Satan using phrases like, you're not doing it the way you're supposed to do it, you're not doing it the way you should do it, and phrases like that. I want you to notice your own brain when you're introduced to a system like what we're introducing to you, the almost impossible craving. Now, what counts as prayer? What counts as writing? What counts as reading? And our brains are so easily tilted towards asking somebody else what counts. And as I've reverse engineered that psychology, it's not really that strange that we ask that question, because we started it in elementary school, we did it in primary, we had leaders and adults who were willing to say, oh, that doesn't count. We were given someone outside of us to define the expectations in all basic areas. So join me, we're going to make a list here now of what, if you follow the formula correctly, what are you supposed to be feeling or thinking, or what state of mind is it intended for you to be in when you pray correctly, when you do your writing correctly, when you do reading correctly? Engaged and not distracted, thank you. Constant, consistent connection. Tuned in, feeling that Heavenly Father is really listening. Ooh, good. Now they're coming in fast. I gotta go to the top. Giving me ideas, inspiration, inspired, peace, protection, discernment. Whew, I'm gonna have another column here. All right. Ooh, motivated, excited and motivated. Discernment, very good. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What I would like in all of you to do is now, one of the problems we have with the old-fashioned way of doing things is we will do one of these things like prayer, writing, and reading, and then we'll ask, did I do it right? One of the nice things about like playing the violin, especially as recording tools became more available, the teacher, a skill teacher, which I have had before, would record your playing, and then when you play it and then listen to it, if I would ask, did I do it right? She would say, instead of answering, she would say, well, listen to it and you tell me if you played it right. Listen to what it sounds like. Listen to the fruits of your labors and see if it's producing the sound that you want. If it's not, then it wasn't taught to me in the form of a D part at the time, but learning how to discover new ways to pull a bow across a string, discovering new ways to put fingers on the strings, to change the sound that instrument's making through some training, and then planning it. Like, as I approach this note, as I approach this note, as I approach this note, I want to make sure I'm preparing myself to play it in a way that is how I want it to come out. When I was introduced to these basic notes, if you will, so here are the three things I was told are supposed to have something to do with your ability to experience this list of things. So I started like a normal person, and I tried to do them the way you're supposed to do them. All right, how are you supposed to pray? How are you supposed to write? How are you supposed to read? And I want to walk you through a little bit of my own history around the use of the D part on accident. As a young missionary, I had the luxury in a city like Detroit where no one was wanting to talk to you anyway, and your companion's boring after 2 days, and so you have lots of time to think about things. And I didn't realize what I was doing, but I started departing the process of attempting to connect with God. And I started to realize that my parents aren't here to tell me how I'm supposed to do it. My mission president isn't around very often. It gave me a lot of opportunity to let my brain float around. And one of the questions I started asking was, if I was raised on a deserted island without any religious training at all, how would I go about trying to connect with God? Like, if there was no supposed tos and no shoulds. And I remember, like, one vision I had was, well, if I lived on an island, for some reason I would walk to the edge of the island, I'd point my head up at a 45-degree angle, and I'd just start yelling, "Hey! Is anybody paying attention to anything?" And that would be a sincere way for me to start praying. If I had no training, it's like, I'm like, "Hey, hello, 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 is there anybody out there?" And I'm all, really feels sincere. Like, if I wasn't raised in a church, if I wasn't raised in a religion, I was thinking, like, would I even pray? Like, I don't know why, but I think everyone's got this idea that there's someone out there watching, like there's someone up there, and I would have this instinct to go to the edge of my island and just yell. And I'm sad to say that I would be probably very irreverent because I wouldn't have no natural reverence, and I wouldn't have been taught how to fold my arms and bow my head anyway. Okay, so how do you do it? So trying to break the normalcy or the shoulds and supposed tos, trying to go, okay, I need to talk to someone. I need to have someone talk to me. I'm going, I need to know what I'm doing is accurate. I had an academic testimony at the time, but I had no idea, like, for sure, what prayer answered what? And the desperation to have connection started to really elevate. I didn't want to spend another 14 months teaching people something where I had to go back later and say, sorry, my bad, wrong stuff, I apologize. I was just following my family of origins culture, and I was filling with sincere agitation in front of my journal, and I'm going, well, you know what? I'm not doing this journaling thing the right way anymore. I'm not doing it the way you're supposed to anymore. I've already followed all the rules for a long time, and I got really courageous one day, and at the top of my page, I wrote, "Dear God." One of the scariest experiences I've ever had because I thought I was breaking all the rules. You can't sit in a chair and write a letter to God. Remember in Sunday school when they said you can't do that? Wait, no, they didn't say you can't do that, but they didn't say you could.
If you're finding this video helpful or want to help us reach others in need, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it really supports our channel. Thank you.
I just had this ache in my heart of, I remember getting more response in elementary school from writing letters to the pen pal letters to people in Scandinavia who actually wrote back to us, and we actually got to read them, and I'm all, you know what? I don't know how this is supposed to work, but I wrote, "Dear God," and after those 2 words, it was one of the strongest surges of yes, and I'm all, okay, like, all right, that's weird. Okay, now I don't ever hear voices. I want to make that clear. I never hear the voice of God. I just experience some presence, and I'm all, okay, I'm still not done with my attitude. I'm 19 years old. I'm full of all sorts of, I was going to say a word that starts with P and vinegar. Some of you know that term from the old days, but some of the younger ones don't. Anyway, so I've got all this aggression, and I'm all, what is going on? This is stupid. I hate this. I don't know what's happening. I don't understand this. I don't understand that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not playing anymore. Okay, I'm not doing this goofy thing. I'm not going to just sit here anymore and walk around like a brain dead human being trying to convert people to something I'm not even sure what I'm doing. Da 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 da. within minutes, the first response I started getting was, well, hello, it's about time you talk to me. I'm all, wait a minute, what about be sincere? He's all, did you not check the dictionary? Sincere does not mean fake, vague, soft, and empty. Sincere doesn't mean be all sweet and pleasant when you're not feeling sweet and pleasant. It means talk to me. Talk to me. And that phrase from the New Testament, come unto me, all you labor and heavy laden, I will give that rest. And that other phrase that says, and this is life eternal, that they might know him in his real form, not his pretend form. And so through a series of DPAR processes, I started to develop what I started to see as a very weird process. I thought of it as very weird because ain't nobody taught me how to do it that way at church. And I got nervous. Like, for years, I didn't tell anyone my connecting style because I was very sure I was going to get rejected. Okay, I was very sure someone's going to go, that's not appropriate. That's not how you should do it. And I'm all, and I'm getting revelation after revelation after revelation and insight after insight after insight. And I'm all talking to God, and we're telling jokes on the way. We're walking around Detroit. We got 2 more months left. And he's all, what are you going to do when you get home? I says, I'll probably start dating. He's all, well, that's going to be a funny sight watching you start dating. I'm all, what? Why are we cracking jokes about me? Like, I'm not even home yet. And all this other stuff. And we became friends. We enjoyed each other's company. My companion's all, why are you laughing again? I'm all, because he told a funny joke. He's a funny guy. I didn't know God was funny. I don't know if he's funny with everybody, but apparently he is with me, because we're not, okay, attention deficit disorder. We're going to stay on track here for a second. So I want to share with you one of the next most important revelations as I was doing this process of DPARing my own style of connecting with God in a way that actually worked. I had been doing this for a while, and I was trying to figure out how to explain it to people, and it was Thanksgiving. I was home a year or two from my mission. I had just gone through the food line. I had my turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy, stuffing, corn, all that stuff on the plate in nice compartments. And as soon as I sat down, because I always sit by myself because I have no friends and no one was watching, I took my fork and my spoon and stirred it all together. All the mashed potatoes and the stuffing and I had this nice, beautiful pile of what I now call Thanksgiving casserole. Okay, and I love to eat Thanksgiving food that way. You don't put your salad and your Jell-O in it for you people who are weird like that. Okay, no, you don't put the cold stuff in there. You only put the warm stuff in there. And it occurred to me that I had just done what I do when I do my power work, my prayer, writing, and reading. So when I do a prayer, writing, reading ritual, I do this really weird thing where I do a 1-sentence prayer. 1 sentence. Father, I try not to be sarcastic every time because we're kind of playful. If you have time, if you're done having breakfast, if you're done playing pickleball this morning with your friends, would you mind joining me for my session? He's like, oh, Maurice, if I can find time to spend with you, I will. And then he shows up. He just always does. He just shows up. I don't know how he does that, but he just does. And so I do a 1-sentence prayer. And then almost always, I open up something to start reading. I start reading because I have to prime the pump in my brain. I got to get some thoughts flowing. I got to get something churning in my head. Rarely do I read for more than 60 seconds. Sometimes I'll read for 2 whole minutes, but then I start getting funky ideas and I start writing. But my initial writing, I'm not sure if it's accurate. So I look over to God and I say, okay, I've got some ideas. I want to put some stuff down here. I need to check with you to see if I'm thinking about this correctly. And I go, okay, so I'll write down a few things, and then I'll go back to him and check with it and go, okay, is that right? Am I getting this concept correct? So sometimes I'll split the paper in half, and I will have the new thoughts, new writings on one side, and the conversation with God on the other side. And so I'm asking him questions and walking through the steps here and then writing it out over here and then going back and forth between the two sides going, okay, what about this? What about that? What about this? As my brain starts to slow down, I will return to the reading, do some more reading, stimulate some more thoughts, highlight a few things, which stimulates more writing and prayer interaction, and then back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And most of the time, I remember those days when I was told, pray for 5 minutes. I'm like, how are you supposed to pray for 5 minutes? And now I ask the same question, how are you supposed to pray for 5 minutes? I can't pray for less than 30 minutes. Like, how are you supposed to get anything done in less than 30 minutes? Okay, we got a lot to talk about here. What about this person? What about that person? Oh, by the way, while we're talking about this, I was just happened to thinking about this one of my roles over here and my goals. So how about we review this one for a few minutes to understand what needs to be done there, and then we'll come back over here and write a few more things. Da 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 da. Let me walk you through the point of all this. If we're going to help you initiate this cycle in a way that has power, I want to really express gratitude for courage last time, because what she really taught us in that piano analogy is you've got to let yourself get it wrong several times first, and you've got to let it build momentum. And if it's hard and it's not coming together at first, set a timer. Don't set a timer because you should set a timer. Don't set a timer because you're supposed to set a timer. Set a timer because it's hard. Don't burn your brain out trying to understand this concept, and sit down and hold still for a second and take the three basics. What we do know is the three basics have a lot of power behind them. And you do prayer, writing, and reading. And you've just heard Maurice's unique way of doing things, but that doesn't mean it's your way. You connect with God through prayer in a way that's very powerful for you. During another phase of my life, my prayer started to become a 2-hour bike ride. I would start out the prayers, I got on my bike, and I would just talk and listen and talk and listen some more and talk and listen. The reading was audiobooks, and the writing, I wasn't writing as much down. I was trying to throw some stuff up to God in notes, and I would do most of my writing when I got home. But I really, really, really needed a whole lot more time slowly pondering and really tapping the tuning fork of what it should feel like when you're interacting with God under a lot of pressure. You've got a lot of clients, you've got a lot of organizations, you've got a lot of people that are relying on you. You've got to keep your head cool. So let's get yourself in the right state of mind and just stay there and practice your tone. You got to get the tone of your brain the way you want it to be. You have the ability to be aggressive and bold and loud. You need to have the ability to be soft and smooth and nurturing. You got multiple things you got to do here. So let's just tap the tuning fork and just let the tuning in glide as you're being with him. For me, I needed to practice being in that state of being for 1 to 2 hours straight. Like, just, okay, tune in. All right. I got distracted by this thought. My anxiety started to build. No, tune back in. Glide for about 2 miles. Start getting agitated, irritated on something. No. Bring it back in. Practice getting back in tune. Stay in the right state of mind. So the point of this matter is you've got to let go of shoulds and supposed tos and start experimenting with and discovering ways that are going to connect you and bring those sensations. Like, what is going to bring you revelation? What is going to bring you insight? And listening to others, not for shoulds and supposed tos, but for different languages, different styles.